Hello viewers, yes, this is Ranjana ma'am and you are watching Yes, mine as well as your channel. This time, yes, the thumbnail makes you aware what I am coming up with. Yes, this time again for my CBSE students, class 11, the address. Class 12 students, don't get disappointed. Soon I'll be coming up with stories for you too. So today the address, I had promised you that I will be coming up with the address after I had completed uploading the photograph. So yes, today here I am with the address, a very touching story regarding a Jewish family and the loss that the protagonist suffered. So what are we waiting for? But before we start, you know what's coming. If you have not subscribed to my channel up till now, please do share it with your friends and don't forget to press the like button after you have viewed it. So let's get started. The address, yes, it is quite a touching story about a daughter. So she goes in search of her mother's belongings after the war in Holland. So she is a Jew. They were rich people and during the war they had to leave their home and the mother died during the war. And after the war ended, she comes back in search of her mother's belongings. There was a time when she did not want to come back. Why? Because the things, they belonged to someone who was very dear to her, her mother, and she had lost her mother. So these things would remind her of her mother. And yet later she picked up the courage to come and take back the belongings, and let's see what happens. So she comes back, and when she finds the things, the objects, they evoke memories of her earlier life, her life with her mother before the war. However, she decides to leave them all behind and resolves to move on. Why? That you will come to know in the course of the story. Do you still know me? I asked. I is the narrator or the main protagonist of the story. The woman looked at me searchingly. She had opened the door a chink. Chink means a little gap. Many times now when you see some stranger knocking at your door, so what do? You open the door a little bit and then through that passage you try to talk to the stranger. Same thing here, this woman, she opens the door only to make her face visible. She looks at this narrator questioningly. I came closer and stood on the step. So she comes closer so that this lady can see her properly. No, I don't know you. So a flat refusal coming from the lady of the house. No, I don't know you. I am Mrs. S's daughter. So Mrs. S is the mother of the narrator or the protagonist. So she is giving the introduction. Yeah, if she says I don't know you, I don't think you can blame her because she had seen the narrator only for a little while for a little time, because she was more busy taking the things out of the house. So she must have given a fleeting glance to the narrator that time many years ago. So it is quite natural if she is unable to recognize this girl or the narrator. So the narrator introduces herself. I am such and such's daughter. I am Mrs. S's daughter. She held her hand on the door as though she wanted to prevent it opening any further. Now she knows. Now this woman knows, oh, she is Mrs. S's daughter. Now she cannot say no. But she is not inviting this narrator to come inside. So she tries to stop the door from opening anymore. Her face gave absolutely no sign of recognition. She gives a blank look, no sign of recognition. She held her hand on the door as though she wanted to prevent it opening any further. Her face gave absolutely no sign of recognition. She kept staring at me in silence. So a blank look. So she doesn't welcome the narrator. Oh, you're Mrs. S's daughter, do come in. No, nothing like that. Rather, she is trying to put her hand on the door to prevent it from opening any further. There are reasons. You'll come to know of it later. Her face gives a blank expression. She cannot recognize this one, and she went on staring at the narrator in silence. Perhaps I was mistaken, I thought. Perhaps it isn't her. I had seen her only once, fleetingly, and that was years ago. It was most probable that I had rung the wrong doorbell. The woman let go of the door and stepped to the side. She was wearing my mother's green knitted cardigan. The wooden buttons were rather pale from washing. She saw that I was looking at the cardigan and half hid herself again behind the door. But I knew now that I was right. So when the woman gives a blank look to the narrator, so the narrator feels possibly I'm at the wrong house. Maybe she doesn't really know me. Why? Because I had seen her many years ago. That was during the war. And now that the war has ended, there is freedom and all that. So quite a few years have elapsed in between. Maybe I have come to the wrong address. And suddenly what happened? The woman who was holding the door closely, so she let the let go of the door and step to the side. And as she steps to the side, she becomes more visible. Up till now, only her face was visible. But as she steps a little aside, what happens? She becomes more visible, and then the narrator notices, oh my God, she is wearing my mother's green knitted cardigan. So the wooden buttons, she must have washed them so often that the wooden buttons have become pale. Now the narrator realizes, no, I am not wrong. I have not come to the wrong address. This is the right one. So she knows she has made no mistake. So, well, you knew my mother? I asked. So when she directly charges, looking at the green cardigan, even the woman feels, oh my God, she has seen my green cardigan, it belonged to her mother. That means now I cannot escape. Now cannot pretend not to know her. Now I cannot give that blank look that I was giving because she has identified me on account of of the cardigan I am wearing. So when the narrator now asks her, well, you knew my mother, so it's a direct charge. Have you come back? Said the woman. I thought that no one had come back. So now the woman seems a bit embarrassed. Have you come back? I thought no one had come back. So she says, no one has come back. Only I am the only person who has come back. The door opened and closed in the passage behind her. So she is standing at the main door. Inside there is a passage and another door inside, maybe a door of a particular room. So that opened and closed. And when that door from inside opened and closed, a musty smell came from inside. Musty smell emerged. I regret I cannot do anything for you. So I'm sorry, I cannot do anything for you. What a shameless woman this lady is. She has all the valuable things that belong to the narrator's mother in her own house, and she had promised that once the war ends, I will give them back to you. I am doing it for your own good, trying to preserve the valuables. And now she flatly tells no to the narrator. Most probably she thinks that the narrator doesn't know that I have all the things with me in my house. So she is telling blankly that I'm sorry, I cannot do anything, I regret, I cannot do anything for you. So what does the narrator say? I have come here specially on the train. I wanted to talk to you for a moment. So narrator says, I have come all the way only to talk to you. Please give me some moment to talk. But this woman doesn't want to talk. Why? Wanting to talk would mean she will have to part with the things she had held in her house all these years, and she had started thinking these things to be her own things, and she feels if I talk to her and she asks me to return the things, or if I allow her inside and she'll see so many things, most of the things in my house belong to her, and I'll have to return all of these things. So that is why she flatly refuses. I'm sorry, I cannot do anything for you. It is not convenient for me now, said the woman. I can't see you another time. So trying to show her the route. Nothing doing. I'm busy now. Some other time. She nodded and cautiously closed the door as though no one inside the house should be disturbed. Why? Most probably there is someone inside and she doesn't want that the person should know that the things which they have in their house doesn't belong to them, but it belongs to the person who is standing outside. Actually, this lady had a daughter, and the daughter was not aware that the things that they use in the house doesn't belong to them. It is someone else's property, and her mother has brought it from there. She must be thinking, my mother has bought all these things. But the reality is that she has carried all these things from Mrs. S's house with the assurance to her that once the war is over, you can come and take them back. I'm just trying to preserve them for you. I looked at the nameplate again. Sorry. I stood where I was on the step. So she was standing on the doorstep of that house. The curtain in front of the bay window moved. Someone stared at me and would then have asked what I wanted. Oh, nothing, the woman would have said. It was nothing. So, what happened? After the woman closed the door, with the narrator still standing at the doorstep. So, she saw that a curtain was moving on the window. So, someone was most probably looking at her from the inside of the house. So, that person might be asking this woman, who is this lady standing outside? So, what would she answer? She wouldn't say, oh, this person has come to take back her things. So, she would say, oh, she's not, I don't know her only. She was probably asking about someone, or she was asking for some help, or she was probably asking for a particular address. She wouldn't let the person inside know the real truth. I looked at the nameplate again. Darling, it said in black letters on white enamel, and on the jamb a bit higher the number 46. So yes, she again looks at the nameplate. You have it outside your door, the name of your father or your mother or whoever is the head of the house. You have the name of that person and also the number of the flat or the number of your apartment or whatever it is. So she looks at the nameplate again. Darling, it said in black letters on white enamel. So on white in black written Darling, and on the jamb a bit higher the number 46. So that is the number of the house, and this is the address that had been given to the narrator by her mother. As I walked slowly back to the station, I thought about my mother, who had given me the address years ago when the war was going on, and the narrator had come on a holiday. So narrator used to stay somewhere else. Most probably she was doing a job there or she was studying. So she had come to the house, and then suddenly she had noticed many of the things in the house were missing. So she asks her mother, "Mother, where are these things?" And the mother is surprised that the daughter should have noticed these things were missing so soon. And then the narrator comes to know that these things are being taken away by someone who is trying to be gracious enough to be helpful to them. That is what the mother says. So it had been given in the first half of the war. I was home for a few days, and it struck me immediately that something or other about the rooms had changed. Yes, so she doesn't fail to notice that some things are missing in the house. The things which used to be here or there, they are not there. I missed various things. So she goes and asks her mother, "Mother, where are these things?" So mother says, she is also surprised. So my mother was surprised I should have noticed so quickly. So mother says, "Oh my God, you've noticed it so soon." Then she told me about Mrs. Darling. So she told, "See, there is one Mrs. Darling. She comes and claims that she is an acquaintance, though I don't remember, but she had once been an acquaintance of mine, and she is being gracious enough to help us. What is she really doing?" I had never heard of her, but apparently she was an old acquaintance of my mother, whom she hadn't seen for years. Whether she was really an acquaintance or not, that is also the question. Because the mother also doesn't remember, but she comes and claims, "See, remember me? I am such and such, Mrs. Darling. We had met at such a place." So the mother says, "Oh yes, really? Maybe I have forgotten." Something like this. So she had suddenly turned up. This suddenly turning up is very amazing. She had suddenly turned up and renewed their contact. So suddenly Mrs. Darling comes one fine morning and says, "Mrs. S, do you remember me? I am such and such, I am Mrs. Darling." And then she renews the contact. She keeps coming to the house, and then she suggests that, "See, these are difficult times, dangerous times for you Jewish people. So you have such valuables in the house. So if you want, I can take them to my house, so that later when the war stops and everything is peaceful again, you can come and take them back from me. Otherwise your house might be attacked and looted, and you might have nothing left in your house." So since then she had come regularly. So after renewing the contact, she kept on coming at a regular basis. "Every time she leaves here, she takes something home with her," said my mother. So mother is very pleased at this gesture of Mrs. Darling. So she is explaining to her daughter that every time she comes, she takes away something along with her home. She takes away something home along with her. Said my mother, "She took all the table silver in one go." Table silver means the spoons, the forks and everything, and they are made of silver. All these are silver. That means they are quite expensive things. And Mrs. Darling knows the value of things. So the things which she takes to her house, they are all of quality product, quite expensive things. That shows that Mrs. S and the narrator, they were rich people. They were Jews, but they were rich people. And then the antique plates that hung there, so the antique plates that hung on the walls, so she has taken those also. She had trouble lugging those large vases, and I'm worried she got a crick in her back from the crockery. So mother seems so concerned about the lady. Poor lady, she is doing me such favor, and in the process she had hurt herself. She had got a pain in the back while taking the crockery. So what are the things she has taken? She has taken the table silver, she has taken those antique plates, she has taken the large vases, she has taken the crockery. Oh my God. So most probably she must have emptied the whole house only. My mother shook her head pityingly. So mother feels pity for this lady. Poor lady, she is doing me such favor and taxing herself out. I would never have dared asked her. I wouldn't have had the guts to ask her, will you take my things into your own house and preserve them? Any day we might have to leave. So will you take care of my things? I dare not suggest, her mother is telling the narrator. So she voluntarily suggested, Mrs. Dodling voluntarily suggested that why don't I keep your things in my house, and once the war ends and things are better, then you can come and collect them from my house. I'll preserve them for you. And so the mother is very pleased. She suggested it to me herself. She even insisted, yeah, she will insist. She wanted to save all the nice things. If we have to leave here, we shall lose everything, she says. So Mrs. Dodling said, suddenly see, one day if you are forced to leave this place, your life is in danger and you are forced to leave this place, and they come and loot your house, then you will have to lose everything. So why not let me take these things and keep it with me? And when things become better, you can come and collect them. Have you agreed with her that she should keep everything? I asked. The daughter is more practical. So she is asking the mother, have you entered into an agreement that once you return, she will keep everything? Not, she won't consider these things as her own. She will keep it for you. Have you talked to her about this? As if that's necessary, my mother cried. It would simply be an insult to talk like that. And think the risk she is running each time she goes out of our door with a full suitcase or bag. So the mother is a person who trusts everyone. The daughter is young and she is more practical. So when she puts up this question, that have you agreed with her that she should keep everything? So the mother says, oh, that is not necessary. And as it is, she is taking great risk. In taking the things out, she might be questioned, what are you doing? Taking things out of the Jewish house. So she is at risk. My mother seemed to notice I was not entirely convinced, and then the mother feels, oh, my daughter, she is suspecting the motive of Dodling. She is not convinced that Dodling will return the things to me once everything becomes fine, once peace returns, once the war ends. So she looked at me reprovingly, and after that we spoke no more about it. Yeah, so she looks at me in a, what should we say, not in a very reproachful manner. And then the daughter decides not to pursue the matter any further. Meanwhile, so these are all flashbacks. She is thinking that what her mother had thought this woman to be and what this woman turned out in reality. Her mother had so much trust in this woman that nothing would happen to our valuables. Once we return, we will get them back. And this woman, what she turns out in reality is that she doesn't entertain the narrator at all, allows her not inside the house. Meanwhile, I had arrived at the station without having paid much attention to the things on the way. Why? Because she was busy thinking of the past. I was walking in familiar places again for the first time since the war. Since the war had ended, she had come back here for the first time since the war had ended. But these were familiar places. But she did not want, I did not want to go further than was necessary. Why? Because these places would torment her. She had been once in this place, but now this place is a sort, walking through these familiar lanes is a sort of torture to her. I did not want to upset myself with sights of streets and houses full of memories from a precious time. Which precious time? When they called this place their own, they were not forced to flee this place. When her mother was there, of that time, when they were happy living here. So those memories would torment her. That is why she doesn't want to. Her mind is full of memories of the past, of the happy old days. In the train back, I saw Mrs. Darling in front of me again as I had the first time I met her. So, as she was returning in the train, she again has as if a vision of Mrs. Darling when she had seen her first time. When had she seen her first time? In her house. She had come to stay for a few days, and then she had seen a woman tugging at something, trying to take it out of the door, and she had only seen the broad back of that lady, not the face also very properly. So that vision comes to her mind as she is returning back in the train. So that vision of Mrs. Darling comes to her mind. It was the morning after the day my mother had told me about her. So when had her mother told her about Mrs. Darling? When she had noticed things were missing. Then the mother had told her that there is one Mrs. Darling and she has graciously offered to help me. And then the very next morning, Mrs. Darling comes again to take some more things, and it is then that the narrator sees her for the first time. I had got up late, and coming downstairs, I saw my mother about to see someone out. So she had got up late, and as she was coming down the stairs, so she sees mother is trying to see off someone, saying goodbye to someone. A woman with a broad back. So first thing which she saw about the woman was the woman with a broad back. And then when the mother tells her, oh, this is my daughter and all that, so the woman turns a little. So, there is my daughter, said my mother. She beckoned to me. So the mother tells, there is my daughter. So mother and Mrs. Darling standing close to the door. Darling is on her way out, and and the mother is trying to introduce, that is my daughter. So what does Mrs. Darling do? The woman nodded. So the woman is not bothered in looking at the daughter. She is more bothered about the suitcase which she is trying to carry out. The woman nodded and picked up the suitcase under the coat rack. She wore a brown coat and a shapeless hat. Does she live far away? I asked, seeing the difficulty she had getting out of the house with a heavy case. Yeah, Mrs. Darling was having a real difficulty taking the suitcase out of the house. Suitcase seemed to be heavy. She must have stuffed it with valuable things. In Marconi Street, said my mother, number 46, remember that. So this is how she had access to the address of Mrs. Darling. The mother had told number 46. So the number of the house is number 46, and the name of the street is Marconi Street, and the name of the lady is Mrs. Darling. I had remembered it. Remembered what? That number 46. But I had waited a long time to go there. She had not gone there immediately after the war had ended. She had waited a long time before she went back to that place. Initially, after the liberation, after the freedom, the war ends in freedom for them. I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff. Yeah, that stored stuff kept in the Darling house. She was not interested. Why? Because when they lived here, when she lived with her mother, they had a spacious house. And naturally, these things would be very nicely decorated. They decorated the house. They were used as ornamentation for the house. But now where she is staying, there is no place for these things. Why? Because the place where she is staying is a small apartment, not the spacious one where she had all those valuable things very tastefully decorated by her mother. So I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff, and naturally I was also rather afraid of it. Afraid why? Because it would make her sentimental. It would remind her of her mother, who had so tastefully decorated these things in the house. afraid of being confronted with things that had belonged to a connection that no longer existed. The connection was the mother was the connection, and the mother was dead. She no longer existed. So she was afraid of confronting these things. Why? Because it belonged, these things were related to her mother. It would evoke the memories of her mother, which were hidden away in cupboards and boxes. All those things were hidden away in boxes and cupboards and waiting in vain until they were put back in their place again. So those things which belong to her mother, she thinks that these things will be kept in the way the lady had taken it from their house, in suitcases and in boxes, waiting to deliver it back to her once she returned. But that was not so. That was not the case. What had she done? She had not kept them preserved in those suitcases. She had opened all of them and decorated her own house in a tasteless manner, because her house was not like the house of the narrator's mother. Kept these things in a very tasteless way, but she was using them, which had endured all those years because they were things. So all these things which she had taken from the narrator's house, they were waiting. Why? Because they were things. They were not human beings. So they were kept in boxes, and she thinks it in this way. But the reality is something else. But gradually everything became more normal again. Bread was getting to be a lighter color. There was a bed you could sleep in unthreatened, a room with a view you were more used to glancing at each day. That means things were turning for the better. Bread, it was becoming cheaper. You could sleep without being afraid of the bombings or anything. No blackout, no bombing. So things were returning. It may be at a slow pace, but they were returning back to normalcy. So once things started becoming normal again, then she felt, why don't I go and visit the house? And one day I noticed, I was curious about all the possessions that must be at that address. I wanted to see them, touch them, remember. Why? Because those things bore the touch of her mother, and she is becoming sentimental. She wants to go and touch those things, feel them, feel the touch of the mother which had been there. After my first visit in vain, but the first visit results in futility. There is no success. To Mrs. Darling's house, I decided to try a second time, but she doesn't give up. She again comes by train to this place, and this time, fortunately for it, Mrs. Darling is not at home. It's her daughter who opens the door. Now a girl of about 15 opened the door to me. Remember, I think that is the reason why she just kept the door very slightly opened. Why? She didn't want the daughter to know that these things in the house don't belong to her but to someone else. She had kept it a secret from her daughter. So now a girl about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. No, she said. My mother is doing an errand. An errand means a small job. So the mother has gone out to work. No matter, I said, I'll wait for her. So this time she gets entry into the house, because this young girl, she doesn't know who this person is. She only feels that this person is an acquaintance of my mother. So as it is customary, she welcomes her to the house, which the mother would not have done. The mother had not done it in the previous meeting also. I followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron Hanukkah candle holder hung next to a mirror. See, wherever her eyes, her glance falls, the things are familiar. Why? Because they all belong to her, or rather her mother. This one, that candle holder belongs to them. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. So they had this candle holder, but it was such a heavy thing, most probably it was really toil to use that one, rather than using a single candlestick, using that candle holder and all that. So it was there for the purpose of decoration, but they had never used it. So she has taken that and brought it to her house. "Won't you sit down?" said the girl. She held open the door of the living room, and I went inside past her. I stopped horrified. Why? Just see. I was in a room I knew and did not know. Why does she say I was in a room I knew and I did not know? She knew because all the things around her were familiar, and did not know because she has never visited this house before. This house, she is visiting it for the first time. And knew why? Because the things in the house belonged to them. They had been in their house. So that is why I knew and I did not know. The place is unknown, but the things are all known. I found myself in the midst of things I did not want to see again. I did want to see again, sorry, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere. She really wanted to see these things again, but not in this unfamiliar and strange atmosphere. The house, this house and their house, vast difference. Their house was spacious, tastefully decorated, and here in this house it has as if become a warehouse or a godown for all these things. Or because of the tasteless way everything was arranged. Yeah, tasteless way. I told you na, the mother had a taste. So the things were very tastefully decorated in that house, and here the things were kept in a tasteless way. Because of the ugly furniture or the muggy smell that hung there. That house most probably does not have proper ventilation. So that is why there is a musty, a muggy smell in that, whereas their house was different. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around me. She hardly dared to look around her, looking at, because wherever her eyes fell, it would be one familiar thing or the other. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. The tablecloth belongs to them. I rubbed it. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. Why does she rub it? Because she tries to feel that familiar touch. I followed the lines of the pattern. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. So when this tablecloth was in their house, when it was put on their dining table, and somewhere it had got a burnt mark. So she is trying to find that burn mark here. The mother had not repaired it, so the burn mark was there. My mother will be back soon, said the girl. I've already made tea for her. Will you have a cup? Thank you. I looked up. The girl put cups ready on the tea table. She had a broad back, just like her mother. The daughter, like mother, like daughter, the broad back, inherited traits. Just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. All it had was a gold border on the lid, I remembered. She opened the box and took some spoons out. My goodness, the teapot, the spoons, everything belongs to the narrator, and they are using everything. And she had thought they would be put in boxes waiting for us to come and take them back because they were things, and they are being used as if they belong to them. Mrs. Dodling had no intention of returning the things when she had taken it, and she had never expected them to return. That's a nice voice. That's a nice box, sorry. I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different. So, as if she couldn't identify her own voice when she says, That's a nice box. Why? Because she knows that the box also belongs to her, from where the spoon has been taken out. The girl doesn't know, but she knows it. And her own voice sounds strange to her. Everything seems strange to her. Even the things which are familiar, they also in this unfamiliar atmosphere seem strange. Oh, you know about them? She had turned around and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother says it is antique. We've got lots more. Oh, so you know about this box? So she feels she is an acquaintance of my mother, so might be she knows about this box. And she says, my mother says it is antique. And just see all the things around, they are also antique. So the mother must have told that I have bought these things from an antique dealer. She did not tell that I have taken the things from someone else's house. I have picked these things from someone else's house. She doesn't say that. So the daughter doesn't know the truth only. See for yourself, she pointed around the room. See for yourself. I had no need to follow her hand. I knew which thing she meant. I looked at the still life over the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple on the pewter plate. So these are all things of decoration. The apple is not a real apple. We use it for everything, she said. Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall, the antique plates hanging on the wall. So here this lady also hangs them on the wall. Once they had their dinner also in these antique plates, but the daughter, she is a young girl, so she cannot find the difference. What is the difference? Eating in your own plate or these antique plates? It's the same. Plate is a plate. I wanted to do so much, but it wasn't anything special. And while this conversation was going on, the narrator was going on probing for that burnt mark on the woolen tablecloth, and finally she found it. I had found the burnt mark on the tablecloth. So as she finds the burnt mark, the girl looks questioningly at her. Why are you looking at this burnt mark in this way? Yes, I said. You get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house, you hardly look at them anymore. Yeah, you find these things are so normal. That she is talking about herself also. Even when these things were in her own house, she had not thought of them as anything special. Why? When you have things around you, whether they are valuable, even if they are valuable, you are so accustomed to it, you don't give it much importance. Once they are not there, then you realize the value. Same for this girl. She sees all these things around her. She doesn't know the true value of these things, which now the narrator knows. So she says, you get so used to touching all those lovely things in the house, you hardly look at them anymore. You only notice when something is missing, because it has to be repaired or because you have lent it, for example. When things are missing, then only you notice them. As she had noticed those things when she had returned, come to stay for a few days, and she had seen things were missing, and then she had noticed them. Again I heard the unnatural sound of my own voice. So her voice sounds unnatural to her. And I went on. I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. So the mother had told the daughter or the narrator, will you help me polish the silver? So she must be wondering, which silver are you talking of? It was a very long time ago, and I was probably bored that day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill, as she had never asked me before. Earlier the mother had never asked her to help her in polishing something or the other, but that day the narrator was at home. She doesn't remember why she was at home. It could be she was at home because she was not well, or it could be that she was bored, and that is why she had to stay at home. So since she was at home, the mother had asked if she would help her in polishing the silver. So the narrator that time did not know which silver the mother is referring to. This is in the past. So she had asked her mother. I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied surprised that it was the spoon, forks and knives. So you are asking which silver? Don't you know that the spoons, the forks and the knives which we use, they are all silver? And it was now the narrator's turn to be surprised. And that was the strange thing. I didn't know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. So she is telling this to Mrs. Darling's daughter, that yes, I never knew that the cutlery with which we eat our daily meal, that is of silver. The spoons, the fork, the knives, they are of silver, and I never knew about it. The girl laughed again. The girl doesn't understand this story. I bet you don't know it is either. I looked intently at her. What we eat with? She asked. So now the narrator is telling, I bet even you don't know that these are of silver. So she is asking, the spoons with which we eat our food. Actually, all these belong to the narrator. That is why the narrator knows that the things, the spoons and all that, they are of silver, which this young girl doesn't know. What we eat with? She asked. Well, do you know? She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and opened a drawer. I look, it's in here. So she wants to go and check if they are really silver. That means she had used them, but she had never known that these were valuable things. These were silver. So yes, when things, valuable things are around you, you don't know its value. But when they are missing, then you notice. When it is not there, then you notice. Then you realize its value. I jumped up. Why does she jump up? She doesn't want that the daughter should go and bring out those silver cutlery, because that would be again another painful experience. So before she could bring it and show it to her, things which belong to her mother and in a unfamiliar place used by people who are not familiar, so she doesn't want that painful thing to happen, and that is why she jumped up. I was forgetting the time. I must catch my train. Why? She doesn't want to face those cutlery, silver cutlery which had once belonged to them. So she says, I was forgetting the time. I must catch my train. She had her hand on the drawer. She is the 15-year-old girl. So hand on the drawer, about to pull it, bring out the box. Don't you want to wait for my mother? No, I must go. I walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer open. So two things are happening simultaneously. She is proceeding towards the door, and the 15-year-old girl is opening the drawer to check whether the spoons and cutlery, they are of silver. I can find my own way. That means there is no need for you to come and see me off. I can find my own way through the passage to the main door. As I walked down the passage, I heard the jingling of spoons and forks. Which ones? The ones which had once belonged to them. At the corner of the road, I looked up at the nameplate. Now she has come out of the house very fast. And then as she reaches the corner of the road, she gives a last look. I looked up at the nameplate. Marconi Street, it said. I had been at number 46. The address was correct. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. Why? She had come to see these things, but it was a painful experience, and she doesn't want to have that painful experience again. What's the use of coming back to these things? Because they remind her of a connection that doesn't exist anymore. So it's better forgetting the address. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. I won't go back there, because the objects that are linked in your memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value again when severed from them. So when the connection or the familiar life of the former times, when this is severed, that longing for those things is also snapped up. I won't go back there because the objects that are linked in your memory with the familiar life of former times. Former times, which times? When she had been with her mother and the happy days they had spent in each other's company, enjoying the cutlery, the food with the silver cutlery, and enjoying the antique plates all around, and the Hanukkah candle holder and all that. They were all reminding her of her mother, memories related to her mother. And what should I have done with them? Even if she had allowed me to take the things, what would I have done with them? Our house where my mother lived, that was a spacious place. But now the place where I live, it is a very small house. So what would I have done with them in a small rented room where the shreds of blackout paper still hung along the windows and no more than a handful of cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer? So there is no place for such luxuries. The things which belonged to my mother and had been taken away by Dorling and had been kept there in a very tasteless manner, it will be in the same way here also. Rather, I don't have enough space to fit them in my house. This is a small rented apartment. I resolved to forget the address. Of all the things I had to forget, that would be the easiest. Why would that be the easiest? Because she did not want to be reminded of those things which brought back painful memories of those happy times, the times which she had spent with her mother, who was no longer there, who had ceased to exist. That is why she wanted to forget the address where the things which belonged to her mother were kept by Mrs. Dorling. Let her use those things, they have no value for me anymore. Because the person who had decorated these things in such a tasteful manner in our house, that person is no longer there. So what are the things? If the person is only not there, the things are become valueless. So she decides to forget the address and feels that that would be we forget something when we want to forget. That is what Freud had said, that the theory of forgetting is we forget what we want to forget. So forgetting the address would be easy because she wants to forget it. So how did you like the story? I'm sure you must have liked it. It's such a touching story. And also the predicament of the people, the Jewish people, and the sufferings, and when they have to come back and she finds her own things in an unfamiliar surrounding and how it affects her, and the things they remind her of her mother and the tasteful way in which her mother had decorated them and the way it is lying here. So it makes her feel repulsive. She doesn't want to visit this house anymore. She doesn't want to look at these things anymore. She is afraid of confronting these things. So, and there are some questions also you have in your book. Have you come back? Said the woman. I thought that no one had come back. So these are the lines of Mrs. Dorling when she says, "Na, I'm Mrs. S's daughter." Does this statement give some clue about the story? If yes, what it is? Yes. So yeah, it is obvious that this statement gives us some clue about the story. Mrs. Dorling and the narrator, they knew each other. At least the families were known to each other. They stayed quite close. And during the war, the Jewish families, they had to leave Holland. Why? Because of Hitler's army taking control over Holland. So they had to leave this land and take shelter in some other place, while many people, they stayed back in the same place. Mrs. Dorling was not a Jew. She was not a Jew, but the narrator and the mother, they were Jews. So they had to leave this place and go away. The narrator was already out of this place. She did not stay here. She had come here for some time. Maybe she was either studying outside or she had a job outside. but the mother was here, and most probably the mother also, either she died during the war or she had to shift from this place. We are not told how she died. It could be she died on account of many Jews were killed during that time. So it could be she died on account of that, or it could be she had to evacuate and she died in the place where she had taken shelter. So Mrs. Dorling was of the opinion that Mrs. S must have died in the war, and that is why she was quite contented that no one will come and claim the things. So when the daughter comes, she gives her a cold reception. Why? Because she, in the heart of her heart, knows that the daughter must have come back for the things, and that is why she doesn't want to allow her to enter her house. The story is divided, second question, into pre-war and post-war times. What hardships do you think the girl underwent during these times? So yes, pre-war, post-war period. Post-war is when she comes back to Mrs. Dorling, and pre-war, so they were rich before the war, the way the things were tastefully decorated in the house, eating their food from with the help of the silver cutlery. That shows that they were affluent people, and they had quite expensive things in their house. And when the war started, suddenly this Mrs. Dorling creeps up from somewhere. Actually, I think she is an opportunist. I hardly have any doubts that she really did not know the mother. It might have been a fake story, and Mrs. S, she was a person who would believe people very easily. So she started taking the things one by one whenever she would visit the house of the narrator's mother, and the girl suffered a lot. They had to leave their homeland. The mother died, and she had to live, whereas earlier they were rich and they lived in such a spacious house. When they left this place and settled elsewhere, she had to live in a small rented apartment where there was hardly any place for such luxuries which they had in their house earlier. So the pre-war, they were affluent people, they led a very nice life, and post-war, settling in a different place, life is difficult for her. So she wanted to go, but it is also difficult for her to go back to the place of her childhood, where she had to that place where she had once spent her childhood with her mother and those happy memories. And she wanted her things back, because now she doesn't have much things with her. So she thought, why don't I go and get the things back? And besides, her mother had assured her that Mrs. Dorling will keep the things for us, But when she goes to meet Mrs. Dorling, the first encounter is a very horrible one. She is not given any entry into the house. And second time, when she manages to get inside also, the things all around her makes her feel that I know the place, and I know the things I know and I don't know. Why does she say this? Because the things are theirs, but the place where these things are, that is not their place. That is the house of Mrs. Dorling. So finally, she loses all her interest in having a look at these things, and she decides to discard them, leave this place and go away and forget that dress forever. Why did the narrator of the story want to forget the dress? Why? So the address was given to her by her mother, number 46 Marconi Street, and she had kept it in her mind when she planned to come back and have a look at the place of her childhood, of her infancy, where she had some happy memories. So, but when she came and visited Mrs. Dorling's house and saw these things, suddenly it reminded of her mother. This was the connection with the things, and her mother had died. So these things became a painful memory. That is why before the girl could bring out the silver cutlery which her mother used to polish in order to retain their shine, and she had asked once the daughter also to help her in polishing the silver. So as the 15-year-old girl was about to bring that box, she did not want to see it because it would remind her of the conversation she had with her mother, that the things with which they had their food, the cutlery, they were all actually of silver. So these were all painful memories, and she did not want to remain connected with them anymore. And what were these things of use to her? They weren't of any use. They wouldn't be of any use to her in that small rented place where she is staying. So that is why she decides to forget the address. Why? Because she doesn't want to return to this place anymore. Another important question is, the address is a story of human predicament that follows war. Yeah. Everywhere you'll find the same story. The First World War, Second World War, whenever there is war, common people suffer. Common people, life is as if in a mess. The things become expensive, and hardly there is not much work. So people suffer a lot. I remember my parents, they were quite young during the time of the Second World War. They were very young, newly married, and my mother said, things were so difficult. Food and everything, they were so expensive. It was very hard time for them. Same here, everywhere it's the same story. War does not really give us anything, rather it takes away a lot from us. Whether you are a victor or a loser, both the sides suffer. So same here. So it brings a lot of suffering to human beings, destruction, death, loss of property. So the address, the story address also is based on more or less the same theme. So Mrs. Darling volunteers to take all the things of Mrs. S, assuring her that these things would be returned once the war is over and they come back. Otherwise, if something happens, they might lose everything. And the mother dies, and all the things which belong to her is now with the Darling, Mrs. Darling. So immediately after the war ended, the daughter had no intention of going back. But much later, when everything limps back to normalcy, suddenly she has a feeling she wants to go and see these things. But when she reaches this house, this woman pretends not to know her. But when finally she realizes that she has been caught because she was wearing the cardigan of the narrator's mother, then she blankly refuses to be of any help. She says, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you." When she wants to have a talk, she says, "No, I cannot talk. I don't have, some other time." Why? Because she is in no mood or has no intention to return all the things which she had taken from their house, and now she has got accustomed to these things, thinking of them as her own, and she knows that this daughter must have come to claim those things back. And that is why she is discouraging the daughter, telling her, she feels that the daughter might not know about these things also. So this woman seems to be, what should we say, an ungrateful type of person, a greedy person. No human emotions, no sympathy, nothing. No honesty, no righteousness. So the war leaves the narrator in a situation, in a very miserable situation. She has lost her mother, she has lost her home, she has taken shelter in a foreign land, and the things which belong to her, that also she doesn't want to take anymore because they evoke nothing but painful memories. So the daughter's situation is quite pathetic. So this is enough for today. I'm sure you must have liked the story. So next time when we come back, maybe I'll do We Are Not Afraid to Die if we can all be together. So bye for the time being, and yes, don't forget to like the video, and yes, like, subscribe and share. Bye for the time being, and have a good time.